Hey, welcome back to the Black and Gold Standard Podcast. And today we want to get into the end of the year report card. So this will be the grading the guys, for the whole season. And I think some of these guys probably have earned their way of maybe coming back to the Steelers. And then I think a lot of guys have earned their way to the door. So we'll go over that, and we'll also talk about the coaches. Well, just the coordinators. We won't really get into the position coaches because at this point it's a moot point. Because I don't think none of those guys are going to be back. Maybe a couple of them. I mean, you always that's the one thing when you do have a coaches change and you bringing in new guys and new coaching staff, you usually have one or maybe two holdovers, just for the fact of they know the guys and it kind of helps the coach out a little bit. He has a voice in there to kind of let him know about some of the guys. So maybe one coach may be back, but that'll be about it. For the most part, this whole staff will be gone. So it's a moot point of even getting into their performance and grading them. So I'm just grading the coordinators. So with that said, let's we can just really kind of just jump right into it and see what we got here. So the Pittsburgh Steelers end up going 10-7. They won the AFC North. They were AFC North Division champs. Um, Regardless of how it shook down, even though they won it by a wide right kick, but at the end of the day, they still won it, and they were division champs. Steelers have a lot of free agents. They have a lot of free agents. Just on this picture right here, I see one, two, three. I see three. I see three free agents on this list right here. I mean, so they have a ton of free agents that they need to try to get re-signed, and like I say, they're not gonna make any type moves, make any type decisions until they get the new coach in place, and he got to evaluate the whole roster and depending on what type of scheme they're gonna be bringing in, do they believe any of these players fit? Do they believe that they're a good person to bring back? So it's going to be a little time before we really have any idea of who the Steelers going to sign because you can sign your own free agents anytime. So with that, I mean, I think you're unrestricted free agents. I'm not really not quite sure how that works. I know you're unrestricted free agents. And I think you can sign those guys at any time. So with that said, let's kind of move on to the grades. And we're gonna start at the quarterback position. Aaron Rodgers. Um, for a 42-year-old man, Aaron Rodgers didn't play bad. Yeah, did he do some things that frustrated you and you know got your blood boiling a little bit? Absolutely. But he's 42. Definitely didn't want to get. I mean, I always say, he didn't want to get hit, but nobody wants to get hit. But exactly when you're 42 years old, you definitely don't want to take no hits. So that part of it, you can see that a little bit, and like I say, that's expected. Um, he's not as athletic as he used to be, so it's some things that the old Aaron Rodgers could do or could have got out of that this version of Aaron Rodgers couldn't get out of. But at the end of the day, his brain, he can still make any throw. Um, so with that said, he can still play. I mean, now it's up to him if he feel like physically he can still do it or not. And only Aaron Rodgers knows that. But um, if he feel like he can still play and got one more year in him, just depending on the situation with the Steelers coaching staff and who's the coach and what type of scheme that they want to bring in here, I would definitely be open to running it back. And I think the Steelers are open to running it back. Um, but like I say, they're not gonna make no decisions until they get their coach in play. But Aaron Rodgers completed 327 passes out of 498 for a 65.7 completion rate. 3,322 yards he threw for, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 94.8 rating. You could take those numbers, and those are not great numbers, but those are numbers that you could actually win. And at the end of the day, as diabolical as the Steelers' offense was, and we fussing and they not running the ball enough, and we don't have enough weapons, this and that, they still won 10 games. And Aaron Rodgers was a huge um, part of that. I can easily say without Aaron Rodgers, this team probably win maybe 7 games, 6 games. So I think Aaron Rodgers was definitely a huge part of that. And I think, like I say, I think the Steelers would be open to running this back with him, just depending on what the new coach say or the way he feels. Because the one thing about Dan Rooney, he basically said it in his news conference that he had. The Steelers are not gonna, and it's kind of a philosophy. This is kind of why they're kind of mid because of this philosophy, but that's just their beliefs. The Steelers are not never gonna fold. They seeing a 5-12 season and all that is not really gonna happen. And like I say, and I don't really want to get into it. I'm kind of trying to be done with Coach Tomlin because I mean it's that part of the history is over with. But it's kind of easy to kind of do what he did when you got an organization that's not gonna fold. Just like I have no doubt the Steelers could have had a losing season when Big Ben ripped his elbow up. But the Steelers went out and made a trade for Minka, and they kept trying to add pieces and just refused not to have a bad season. Where a lot of teams, when they had that situation, they kind of just go ahead and kind of fold the ship and hey, let's get a good draft pick. Let's use this opportunity to kind of restock the cupboards a little bit, get a high draft pick. But the Steelers don't believe in that. So I believe there's no way the Rooney's is going to get a new coach in here and rip this thing up, and this team goes 5-12 because they don't want to hear that, because the first thing you're gonna hear is, oh, we need Mike Tomlin. They should have did more to keep him, or they shouldn't have fired. Whatever happened, whatever that situation was that he left, is going to be a big issue, and I'm quite sure the Rooneys do not want to hear that. So that's why I believe they pretty much seen what they got in Mason Rudolph. I know a lot of people was on this Will Howard trip, but they ain't going in that direction either. Trust me. So I think they gonna run this thing back with Rodgers, or at least try to run it back with him, or they're gonna go out and whatever. If it's gonna be a Malik Willis or Matt Jones, they're gonna go out and find somebody. But like I say, a lot of this will depend on the coach and what direction he wants to go in. But even as a new coach, he don't want to come in here and fail and have a terrible season and be compared to Mike Tomlin and all that stuff. So it's gonna be very interesting. But I gave Rodgers a B. I thought for the most part he played well. Like I say, if sometimes he was diabolical. I will admit to that, but I think if you could convince him to come back, maybe saying, "Hey, we understand we need more weapons. We're going to bring in more weapons. We're going to fix this offensive line a little, make this offensive line a little bit more tighter, so you won't get hit as much." And we're bringing in a better offensive coordinator with a better scheme, and they may could get Rodgers back. It's gonna be a challenge, but just stay tuned. Just stay tuned for that one. Running backs. These guys, I thought they played well. I think some of the issues that the running backs had, I think was more of a coaching issue, an offensive scheme issue. Um, I just think sometimes they wasn't used as much as they should be used. But for the most part, these guys played well. Jalen Warren, he had 211 attempts for 958 yards, a 4.5 average, 6 touchdowns. He also caught 40 balls for 333 yards, a 8.3 average, and 2 more touchdowns. Um, Kenny Gainwell had 114 attempts for 537 yards, a 4.7 average, 5 touchdowns. He caught 73 passes, which led the team for another 486 yards, a 6.7 average, and 3 more touchdowns. So these guys really put up numbers. I just think the usage was just kind of mind-boggling at times, and just didn't run the ball as much. So like I say, I don't blame this on the running backs, and that's going to be a theme that you're going to hear me say a lot as we go through these grades. That I really don't blame a lot on the. I mean, not all. Some of these players do. They got some blame coming their way, but I just think at the end of the day, this was not a well coached football team. It was not a well coached football team, in my opinion. But I gave the running backs an A-. I think for what they were asked to do and the opportunities that they were given, I think these guys played well. I think they played well. Um, really have no issues with their performance. Warren, the only thing that I was kind of leery about him going into the season was that he puts that ball on the ground, and he really didn't do that. I think I remember one fumble he had, but for the most part, he held on to the ball. Um, so I thought these guys played well. Gainwell, this is gonna be a guy that hopefully the Steelers can re-sign. I don't think it'll be a big market for him, but it probably will be some teams out there that will take a look at him. But I think if he wants to be in Pittsburgh, and especially if it looked like they're going to run a scheme that's going to keep 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 these two guys happy, I could see Gainwell coming back. So I really don't see that being an issue of losing him. Um, but we'll see. The wide receivers. This room basically need to throw a grenade in the wide receiver room and clear it out. Um, this was an issue. It was a major issue, and I said this before, and I think a lot of people see it now. Because I didn't. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't see it at the beginning. DK Metcalf. Um, DK Metcalf is. I mean, I guess you could say he's a number one, but it seems like he's more of a number two. I think one of the things I said was by playing in Seattle, you never really. I didn't watch no Seattle Seahawks games, and you always just see highlights of DK, and you like, oh man, this guy's a stud. But now once you got a up and close view of him, His hands are very suspect. That we found out. He got some very suspect hands, and he, if you can get another stud receiver, DK is your number two, but he'll be a hell of a number two. So with that said, um, I mean Metcalf just too many drops. Flat out, too many drops. But again, with the scheme, because you had times that this is the guy you paying $30 million to, and you get a game that he only got 5 targets, 3 catches, and that's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. But part of that is that's just Arthur Smith. That's his offense, and he just don't know how or refuse to feed a receiver the ball. And when you're paying somebody $30 million, this guy should be getting he should be getting about 10 targets a game, easy. He should be getting 10 targets just off the fact of the money that he's making. Just off the fact, the money he's making. So I know the Rooneys are probably like, man, we ain't paid a lot of money, and we not getting our just due for the money that we're putting out there. But DK caught 59 passes for 850 yards, a 14.4 average, 6 touchdowns. Calvin Austin, which is not the number two, they try to make him a number two. He's really a number three. 31 receptions for 372 yards, a 12.0 average, 3 touchdowns, which those numbers are not great, but as a number three, those are decent numbers. You still probably want a little bit more catches, but as a number three, which I think Calvin Austin is, those are not terrible numbers. But as a number two, they're absolutely terrible. But he's not a number two. So again, no fault of his. This is a coach's decision that either a coach's decision, and you can blame it on the front office decision to make him the number two when he's not. So you almost had him being, doing something that he was not. The rest of that room, I think Roman Wilson is tragedy. um, who knows with him? But again, you got a new staff coming in, so maybe he gets a fresh start, gets another opportunity to show what he got. Well, Alan Thielen already retired. Um, uh, MVS, he's probably not going to be back. Who else is in? I can't think of. Miller, he's probably not going to be back. So it's going to be some room. It's going to be some room for the Steelers to try to get another receiver in here. And me personally, I'm working with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm trying to get AJ Brown, get him out of Philly, and I think a 3rd round pick might do it, because I think they want to get him out of there, and plus also they want to get up from under that contract. So a lot of times you're taking on the contract. So that's why I think the draft pick won't have to be that high, because like if you asking for a number one or a number two, and the team got to take that contract, then that's when you're gonna start wanting a team for you to pay some of that contract and all that stuff. But I think if you give up a third, if you take a third for him, that it's pretty much known that the team that's going to trade for him going to have to eat that contract. So I would be on the phones, working that phone, and keep AJ Brown in Pennsylvania, but just move him over to Pittsburgh. So with that said, I gave the receiving room an F, and this F is little on the players, but it's really more on the front office. This is an Omar Khan grade here. I think they should have definitely upgraded this room, upgraded this position, in which I think they didn't. And DK had too many drops and not even getting into the diabolical mess that happened in Detroit, which cost them 2 games. It was just a disaster. The receiver room was a 100% disaster. But I think if you can get an AJ Brown and draft a guy, I would be willing to bring Austin back. So if you telling me I can have DK Metcalf, have AJ Brown, I can have a draft pick, a fairly high draft pick, and I can have Calvin Austin. I can now that's 4 guys right there. Now that's a receiving room that I think you can work with. I think you can work with and bring some sanity back to the Pittsburgh Steelers receivers. Hey Yolanda, how you doing? Um any exciting news? I got to come check you out on your next show. I got to see what's going on with the Ravens. I got to keep an eye on you guys, see what's going on over there. But yeah, our receiving room was a total disaster, and I gave those guys an F. Moving over to the tight end room. For the most part, again, these guys didn't do bad. With Pat Fryermuth led the way, 41 receptions for 486 yards, 11.1 average, 4 touchdowns. The diabolical Juno Smith, 38 catches for 222 yards, a 5.8 average, and 2 touchdowns. And I don't think Smith will be back. But again, like I say, it's hard to say who's going to be back and who shouldn't. Well, he shouldn't be back because of his play. But like I say, we just got to wait and see with the coaches and who's going to be the coach and what type of system he's going to have going on. And then you had Dwayne Washington. He had 31 catches for 364 yards, 11.7 average, and 1 touchdown. Fryermuth, the Steelers, whoever the coach is, they got to get him back on track. I truly believe that he got on Aaron Rodgers' bad side. He got on Aaron Rodgers' bad side this summer, and I think it was more of a work ethic issue. And then I don't know if people remember, it was early week 1 in the Jets game where I remember Aaron Rodgers was rolling out, and he had Fryermuth, and he had, I forget who it was. It might have been Calvin Austin on a little deeper route, and Rodgers didn't pass the ball to him, didn't pass the ball to Muth, and Muth kind of gave him the hands like, hey, I'm open. And I think Rodgers didn't like that, and he was in the doghouse ever since. Then it seemed like end of the games, all of a sudden the Steelers would use them. But this is a weapon that the Steelers need to really get going. I mean, as good as Darnell Washington was doing, Fryermuth is a guy that they definitely need to get more action and more targets to. So with the tight ends, I gave the tight ends a C+. And like I say, part of that was the disappearance of Fryermuth for whatever reason, and Jonnu Smith was terrible. And I'm glad Arthur Smith is gone, because if I see Jonnu Smith in the backfield taking a toss sweep, which honestly he didn't do bad when he did it, but taking a toss sweep and taking a jet motion, it was diabolical. It was diabolical. So I gave those guys a C. I really didn't think they played bad. I think your best guy, you just needed to use them more. So maybe when a new coach comes in here, he'll recognize that and get Fryermuth back on track. The offensive line, I must say with these guys, I gotta give them credit because at the beginning of the year they were terrible. Um, and I was all over them. A lot of people was all over them. But as the season went on, they got it together. They started playing much better. Seemed like when Jones got out of there, the line even got even a little better. Um, but it's still some improvement. It's still some improvement they need to do. Me personally, I didn't like Pat Myers. I just don't like his scheme. But I do have to give him credit. These guys were playing better, but now hopefully we can get a better offensive line coach in here. The line it needs a little tweaking, not no major, major stuff. I mean, I will kind of major because we got to find a left tackle. If Jones, maybe a new offensive line coach can get whatever Jones got in him and get him fixed. Um, Everybody was high on Cook, but reality set in, especially when they played the Texans and they played a better defense. Um, actually, the whole offensive line got whipped. But with that said, they gave up 31 sacks. That's a little high. That's a little high, but also you had a quarterback back there that couldn't move, so he's going to be a sitting duck. Rushing, they had 407 rushes for 1,700 yards, a 4.3 average. Passing 3,400 yards. That was a 6.6 average and 202 yards a game. So, like I say, they didn't play terrible. They didn't play terrible, and I gave those guys a C because I'm gonna be honest with you. The beginning of the year, these dudes was a flat F, D minus at the best. So they got it together, and like I say, it's gonna be a little tweaking because I think we're gonna have to get a left tackle, and that's a major thing. And a left guard, but I think after that, the rest of the line, so from center on over to the right side, the line is pretty solid. I mean, those guys just gotta improve and keep on developing and get better. But the offensive line is it's pieces to work with. It's pieces to work with, and I think a good offensive line coach and a better scheme can get these guys going. And also, my opinion, and this is just not the offensive line. This is the whole team. Period. I want to see a different strength and conditioning coach in there because me personally, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers was a strong team. Um, I don't think they was a strong team. This team wasn't really pushing anybody around, wasn't really bullying anybody, and a lot of that comes with being strong. And I don't think the Steelers were a very strong team, in my opinion. So overall grade for the offense for 2025, I gave those guys a C. I thought they were just average, and this is a theme of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're mid, they're a mid team, and I thought offensively they were pretty mid. They were pretty mid. I mean, it was some good things that they did, and also with some bad things. But I also believe that they were not a well coached team, and I think a lot of their problems came from coaching. Um, like I say, the players are still responsible for a lot of stuff, but I think coaching played a big part in a lot of their issues. So moving over to the defense, moving over to the edges. Um, Starting off with TJ Watt, he led the way with 55 tackles, 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, um, 2 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries, and one punctured lung. So just a crazy year for him. Did he play up to that 40-something million contract? Absolutely not. Um, he may be a guy up for trade, and we just have to see. like I say, it's just hard to really, say anything until we know who the coach is going to be and what type of scheme he's going to run. You might get a new coach in here that can break Watt loose, and do some different things with him. So it's just hard to say. But right now, you would almost say that I wouldn't mind seeing him get traded. But it's like I say, it's just hard to say until we get that coach. Because I mean, you might have a coach that come in here and defensive coordinator change some things up, and Watt is going to be a big part of his scheme. So you just never know. So moving right along, um, Highsmith, 50 tackles, 9.5 sacks, 15 tackles for loss, one fumble recovery. Um, Highsmith played well. I mean, Alex Highsmith, he played well. He played well. My only thing with him is he just get those diabolical soft tissue injuries here and there. They kind of, he's good for missing a couple of games, but I thought he came on strong at the end of the year. Really stepped up when Watt was out, and he was a guy that in the middle of the year that we was thinking that, hey, maybe he could be a draft day. I mean, not a trade deadline victim and get traded and use that to get a receiver. But again, like I say, you just gotta wait. Just gotta wait and see who's gonna be the coach, who's gonna be the new D coordinator. He definitely may see these guys as major pieces to his defense, and whatever defense the Steelers are gonna run. And then also you had Herbert, 30 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, one interception, three forced fumbles, one fumble recovery, and one fumble recovery for a touchdown. So, like I say, once a new coach come in here, he looks at the film, he might say, "Hey, this Herbert kid, I can work with him, and we can trade one of these guys. We can trade Watt or Highsmith because I think this guy gonna be a star or whatever." So, like I say, we just at this point it's just kind of like a wait and see. But the edges, I gave those guys a C+, and to be honest, we came up with that grade just on the strength of TJ Watt didn't play up to his standards. I don't really know what's going on, if he was hurt or what. And I mean, obviously at the end of the year, um, he had that situation with the lung and stuff, but just didn't for $40 million, definitely didn't get your money's worth. And I felt like he really bought the grade down. Just when you're making that type money like that, hey, it's a higher standard that you gotta play at. And I just didn't think he played at that standard. Is he washed? I don't know. It seems like he's washed, but who knows? And like I say, a lot of times you get a new coach in there, a new way of doing things that can energize a guy, and who knows? TJ Watt could come back next season and add 25 sacks and break the sack record. So we just don't know. Again, that's another wait and see until we see who the coach is. The defensive line, very frustrating group right here. Started the year off terrible, ended the year terrible, at least the last game. I don't know what it is, and I'm almost thinking it's a scheme thing because just getting gashed in the running game is just crazy to me. So I don't know. Maybe it's the scheme, but all I know is the Houston Texans offensive line is terrible. And if you really go back and watch that game, Harmon, our number one guy, our guy that we said could stop the run and all that stuff, he was getting his butt whooped. I mean, he was 10 yards down the field. They was walking him down the field. it was just it was terrible. Um, Cam Hayward played like a beast at the end of the year. He led the way with 78 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 6 pass defense, and 1 forced fumble. Will Cam be back? Who knows? He may retire. He's 37 years old. So again, it's just going to be. I think Cam is going to be one of those situations. He's going to wait and see who the coach is, and then once the coach find out who the coach is and get the coaching staff together, I'm quite sure it'll be a conversation with Cam and the defensive coordinator of what the scheme and what his plans are. And I feel like if Cam feel like, hey, I can play in this scheme, or I like what I'm hearing, I think he comes back. I think if he don't like what he hears and not really feeling it, I think he retires. So again, like everything, this is just going to be a wait and see until we find out the new head coach, the new defensive coordinator, and the new scheme. Benton, I think, yeah, 51 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 1 pass defense, 6 tackles for loss, and 1 forced fumble. He's somebody going to offer him some money. He's young. It's going to be some money out there for him, and it may just be a situation where it's too. Now, if Cam retires, that frees up a lot, and I think they'll feel more better signing him to maybe a little richer contract than what they probably want to give him. Um, it'd just be easy to justify that you wouldn't have all that money tied in on your defensive line. But I think it's going to be a little bidding war for him. He made himself a lot of money, and again, he's diabolical sometimes too in the run game, and sometimes you'll see him 10 yards off the line of scrimmage where he ain't got blown back. But I just think sometimes it's just a technique and just the scheme. I don't know. I don't really know. What you got here, Yolanda? Who you like for our next head coach? Well, what I think, and my man Big G brought up a good point today on this show, and I feel the same way. If the Steelers don't sign a coach by the end of this week, I think the play is in for Chris Shula. I think Chris Shula may be their guy. If they don't, especially if they wait and they don't sign anybody, if they don't sign a coach by the end of this week. And because I think with the Rams, win or lose, their guys, because I think you got the bye before the Super Bowl, so their guys can come in and do in-house interviews. And I think they would bring Chris Shula in, and if he passed whatever the Steelers look for, I think he's going to be the guy. And if he flops, then it will be probably one of the guys that they bring in this week. But I just believe if nothing happens and they go this whole week without naming a coach, I think Chris Shula is their guy, and I wouldn't really be mad at that. Then also I think Steelhouse, the Rams passing coordinator, I think they probably feel like maybe if he don't get a position, because I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of people is going to interview him. He's getting a lot of interviews, but I think it may be hard for a lot of teams to really pull the plug on him because he's just a passing coordinator. He haven't even been a coordinator, and to jump the head coach, Not saying that you can't do it, but I just think a lot of people are going to be a little nervous about it. And so I don't think at the end of the day nobody's going to pull the trigger on them. But I think if that happens, the Steelers probably can get Chris Shula as a head coach, and I think Shula would bring him with him and make him the coordinator, and that would be huge. That would be some good stuff there. Um, so we'll see, but I'm saying right now, I think Chris Shula is the leader in the clubhouse. And your next question: would you like to have Rodgers back next year? Well, it depends. Um, it just depends on where the Steelers are at as far as how they want their season to go. I could definitely run it back again with Rodgers with some more weapons, retool the offensive line a little bit, and a better offensive scheme. Because when you look at his numbers, he didn't have a terrible year, and you got to think he did that with a terrible wide receiver room, and a terrible scheme. So I feel like if Aaron Rodgers feel like he can play and he still got it in him, um, I could run it back with him one more year. Like I say, but again, it's just going to depends on you know who the head coach is and their offensive scheme. I mean, I could also see the Steelers going after Malik Willis, and bringing him in for maybe giving him like a 3-year deal, and front loaded and still get their quarterback in 27, and just go from there. So it's a lot of things that I can see can happen, but I would definitely run it back with Rodgers if Rodgers feel like he can still play and he still got it, because he didn't. At the end of the day, he did not play. Yeah, he had some diabolical moments, but for the most part, he did not play bad. And I mean, his mind of the game and his ability to throw the ball, because that's the one thing. His arm strength is still there. It's just that he's not mobile anymore. And I think, especially with the guys with Metcalf, and maybe if you bring Austin back and Farmer, so you got a lot of guys that will be back that now kind of will have a better understanding of how Aaron Rodgers think and can kind of see the game the way he see it. Because I think part of the problem, I mean, you would see Rodgers almost after every play bitching and cussing, and because he's just so far mentally ahead of these guys, and they're just not used to playing with him. And it's just a lot of things that he's seeing, they're not really seeing, and it causes a mess. And then on top of that, I think Rodgers hated his offensive coordinator. He hated his offense. So you had that going. So um it's a lot of little things that's going on, but I would definitely run it back with Rodgers if I had to. So with the defensive line, I gave these guys a D, and I gave them a D because they were just too far inconsistent on stopping the run. They were getting gashed. A lot of people got the big head when they played Detroit, and I think Detroit ran for 15 yards or something like that. But Detroit offensive line that they put out there couldn't block me. So you know that was part of it. And the Steelers, hey, I mean, I give them credit. You got to take advantage of a situation like that, and they took advantage of it. But it just the problems that they had stopping the run was never fixed this year. It was just covered. It was covered up, and as you can see in the playoff game, it reared its head again, and Houston, who couldn't run the ball at all, was they made their running back look like Gale Sayers out there or something, and they made Nick Chubb look like Nick Chubb. So it definitely needs to be fixed. So I gave those guys a D because they was just too inconsistent in the run game. Um, Linebackers, and this is a very very sticky situation in Pittsburgh because there's a lot of guys that want to get Patrick Queen out of there. And what I see in Patrick Queen is when you look at his numbers, didn't really play that bad. Didn't have a bad year. But again, you got to remember Patrick Queen is more on the smaller side. So the one thing he had in Baltimore had those big guys in front of him that was taking up blocks and let him do his thing, play with speed, run sideline to sideline. That's Patrick Queen game. When you got offensive tackles and offensive guards coming down on him, he has no shot. And he would get bowled over a lot of times, missed tackles because he was getting beat up. But when you look at his numbers, he didn't have a bad year. And I like again, let's just see who's going to be the head coach. Let's see who's going to be the defensive coordinator, because that's going to be a huge thing. We'll just go back on their numbers. Um, um, Wilson, 126 tackles, 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 2 pass defense, 1 interception, one forced fumble. Now he's really kind of not on the big side. So these guys as inside backers, it's kind of hard for them, especially when the defensive tackles are getting blown back into their lap. Um, Now when the Steelers kind of dabbled with the 4-3, um, Wilson was great at it because that's what he is. He's really a kind of an outside wheel backer, weak side backer, where he don't have to take on the tight end and just kind of take the back out of the backfield, because he's probably I I would say if you put the whole Pittsburgh Steelers team on the line and ran a 40, I'm going to say Calvin Austin probably will come in first, DK will come in second, and Peyton Wilson will be third. I mean, he can run, and he wouldn't be third by a lot. He would it would be close. I mean, he can run. This guy can fly. So again, let's just look at the scheme, and then when you look at Patrick Queen's numbers, he had 120 tackles, 1 sack, 8 tackles for loss, 4 pass defense, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. So Patrick Queen did not really play that bad, but when he was bad, he was bad. That was his deal. When he was bad, he was actually bad, and it would frustrate you, and you'd be like, let's get this guy out of here. But before we run him out of town, I like to see him in a better scheme, being coached better, and see what can go on. Because like I said before, and again, I'm not down in the man when he's gone, but the Pittsburgh Steelers were not a great coach football team. And then Malik Harrison had 41 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. I don't see him being back. Thank you for your service, but I'm quite sure he's probably not going to be back. They can find something out there better than him, but he did. The Steelers kind of had to use him as the thumping linebacker, some guy, guy with a little bit of weight and could make some things happen in the run game. But I don't really see him coming back. So the linebackers, I gave him a C minus because they were, like I say, even with Patrick Queen. When Patrick Queen is bad, he's bad. But a lot of that stuff don't really be those guys' fault. Like I say, when you got when you have your defensive tackle and a guard sitting in your lap, I mean, what you want to do, you can't really do anything. Moving on to the corners. The Steelers corners didn't play great, didn't play bad. The only thing that I want to see from them, that I think it need to be some improvement, is when it comes to stopping elite receivers. Again, elite wide receiver, you're not going to shut them down, but you can't be having Jamar Chase catching 20 balls. He that you can't have, and we need our corners to be a little better than that. Porter, um, I have to give him credit. Now he didn't get the interceptions, but he did. He made himself a lot of money this year, and I think the Steelers will bring him. I mean, will sign him, and you talking that's $100 million contract right there. That's going to be $100 million contract for that young man. So it's going to be it's going to be a situation where the Steelers are going to have to figure out what they want to do. I see Claude Bishop is in the house. What's up, Claude? Um, yeah, Porter made himself some money. He made himself some money. Again, I think with some better coaching, and he still need to work on his technique a little bit because he's still grabby, but he played pretty good this year. I have to give it to him because it started off kind of diabolical, but he kind of settled down and stopped getting as many penalties. But I think he made some money, and me personally, I want to see that interception rate. I want to see that. I want to see that go up some. I need more than one pick. He got some terrible hands. He need to work on them hands. They hands of stone. But he had 52 tackles, 1 sack, 14 pass defense, and 1 interception. You had Eccles, which played slot corner. He had 48 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 6 pass defense, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Didn't play bad. Now he got ate up in the playoffs. I don't know what was going on there. He didn't have a good game against the Texans. I think Kurt ate him alive, which was diabolical. But that I don't know. And then James Pierre. I think James Pierre made himself some money. He had 30 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 interception, 11 pass defense, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery for a touchdown. This is going to be a guy. Do the Steelers pay him? I don't know, because you got Asante Samuels, and I think the Steelers probably want him to be their number 2. And if that's the case, just depend on what Pierre is looking for as far as the payday. He could definitely be your 3rd corner, but if he's looking for big money, which I don't know why he wouldn't. I mean, he's gonna go and get the best deal that he can get. That's gonna be interesting if the Steelers can bring him back or not. So the corners, I gave the corners a C. Then they didn't, they were just okay. But again, and I'll say it over and over again, the Pittsburgh Steelers were not a well-coached team. Bad schemes. I just think the coaching was lacking. This is why I think these guys were inconsistent from week to week, looking good one week, the next week looking terrible. I just think this was not a well-coached team. And I think, that's where you got to be excited about, getting a new coaching staff and see who your D coordinator is going to be and what type of scheme he's going to bring. So they got pieces. And we'll see. Now, this is honestly, I think this is the problem room right here. I think our receivers are the number 1 problem room, but I think this may be the number 2 problem room. And I'm going to let you know why I believe that. So, Jalen Ramsey, 88 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 8 pass defense, 1 interception, 3 sacks. Obviously, he's going to be back, but the problem is going to be he's scheduled to make $24 million. He's not a corner no more. He's definitely a safety, a free safety, or maybe strong safety, but not for $24 million. So I think the Steelers definitely gonna come to him, and you either gonna take a pay cut or you're gonna be a June 1 cut. Um, I don't know how they're gonna do that, but there's no way they can go into the year paying him $24 million. Duggar Duggar won't be back. His issues popped up at the end of the year, and now you see why New England ran him up out of there. I don't think he'll be back. He had 42 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 5 pass defense, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown. He came in. He was like we thought we had one. We thought the Steelers had made a steal, but his issues popped up at the end of the year, and again, like I said, it showed why he's not in New England right now. And New England gave him money, and they said, hey, we gotta get rid of this guy. So I think the Steelers will probably let him go into free agency. Clark, um, he probably won't be back. 51 tackles. Now, one thing I will say about Clark is he can tackle, but that's it. He can't cover. I always use myself as he can't cover me. I can get him on a 9 route. He can't cover at all. He's shot when it comes to covering, but he will hit you. Now, when he hit me, I'm gonna be done and over with. But I'm gonna be open. But yeah, I can see him not coming back. Didn't play bad. Didn't play bad, but can't his covering is a liability. So this room, then you got Elliott coming back off the major knee surgery. So this is the thing that I believe, and keep this in your memory bank. If Chris Shula gets the head coaching job for the Pittsburgh Steelers, look for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I can't think of the kid's first name, but his last name is Curl. He's the free safety for the Rams. And matter of fact, you can watch him Sunday. I think his number is either number 3 or 0. I know he got a single digit number, but he's a free safety and he's a free agent. And I can see if Shula comes here, he's probably gonna bring him with him. And so that would definitely upgrade this room, and depending on what they can work out with Ramsey. Now, if you can get Curl and Ramsey, and this will be Ramsey's second year of being a safety, and you have a better feel for it, you're cooking with some hot grease there. So just look for that. Yeah, this safety room, and I'm quite sure it'll be a guy. They probably draft a guy and put him in the mix, and we'll see how that goes. But just keep that name in mind. I gave these guys a C. Really didn't. The Steelers defense really didn't get beat deep so much. I know the beginning of the year, well, actually Ramsey was playing corner when that happened, but they didn't really get beat that much over the top per se. But the guys played back 100 yards off the line, so you weren't gonna run by them anyway. But the safety position needs to be upgraded, and I think that can happen. So the defensive overall grade, I get these guys a D plus. I think in the long run, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense it failed them. It failed them, and this was $170 million defense, and for that type money, they didn't play up to par. I remember Mike Tomlin said this was going to be a great defense, and it was never, not even close to being that. But again, I have to go back to it, and I told you we're going to have this theme a lot. This was a very, very bad coach football team. Just letting you know. So the players, they get a lot of the blame because at the end of the day, they're on the field, but bad schemes, just bad, and a lot of it had to do with the way they were being coached. To me, special teams, the boss had a great year. He kind of was shaky at the end. I don't know. He had the nips a little bit right at the end. He would 27 to 32 in field goals for 84.4 average. 60-yard was his long. 42 out of 43 extra points for 97.7%. Chris Wakeman, 62 punts, 28, 23, so 2,823 yards for 45.5 average. 67 yards was his long. So obviously, and they always do this, but they'll bring Wakeman back and also bring some competition in there. And he'll battle whoever they bring in, and you could maybe see a new punter, or he can win the job. But that's basically a camp thing anyway. They always gonna bring in another punter, and there's always a competition on that. So you just have to see into the summer. So Wakeman could be back, could not be back. So special teams, I gave him a B minus. Boz kind of carried this part of the team. My biggest issue, the Steelers need to get some kick returners. Calvin Austin didn't do bad as a punt returner, but again, you when you're rolling them out here as your second receiver, you can't really you got to kind of watch it as far as him returning punts. But I think if he's the third receiver, you feel a little better with putting him back there. The one thing I will say, he caught the ball. He had no issues catching the ball, didn't fumble or anything like that. So maybe just get some better blocking in there. Danny Smith, one of the fan favorites, he may not be back. Just got to see. So with that said, I gave special teams a B minus. All right, here we go. Offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith. Me personally, I think the game is over for Arthur Smith. I think the offense that he want to run, it ain't the NFL anymore. So if you can see the Steelers numbers, they were 25th in total offense. It was 22nd in passing offense, and it was 26th in rushing offense. So basically, the Pittsburgh Steelers was diabolical on offense. Just terrible. Bad schemes. But it would be crazy because some games Arthur Smith would be in his bag a little bit, but for the most part, he forgets. He abandons the running game. Then he can't really. His passing, I think what it is, his passing schemes are terrible. His route combinations and all that type of stuff is just terrible. And I don't think he's a good fit for today's game. So I gave Arthur Smith a D plus. Gave the offense a C, but I gave Arthur Smith a D plus. So basically, what I'm saying is the offense kind of did stuff in lieu of him. And I think that was more of Rodgers just saying, the hell with it. I'm taking over. I'm doing my thing. But I think Arthur Smith was basically a D plus offensive coordinator. He was terrible. Keep it real. And I gave him a D plus. Probably the most hated man in Pittsburgh, Terrell Austin. But I feel sorry for the brother because he takes a lot of heat, because he has the title, but this is him and Mike Tomlin, and this is basically Mike Tomlin's defense. So, but Austin kind of got to take the brunt of the punishment because he does have the title. Probably was going to get fired. But you know what? I'm not even going to say that. Now, if the Rooneys just decide to say, "Hey, he got to go," he was going to get fired. But other than that, Tomlin wasn't going to fire him because he's a perfect type guy. Tomlin wanted in there. But as you can see, Pittsburgh was total defense. They was ranked 26. Um, Pass defense, they was ranked 29th, and rushing defense, they was ranked 13th. So you would say like, wow, they stopped, but no, that 13th came, like I say, when you give up 15 yards rushing to the Detroit Lions, that bumps it up. They had a couple of other games where they shut some teams down, and it elevated their ranking. But when you watch them against Buffalo, you watch them. I mean, you seen what they did in the playoff game, and what they did against a couple of other teams. Even against Baltimore. I mean, hell, the first play of the game was a 50-yard run. So it that 13 is very smoking mirror. Very, very smoke and mirror. So um that 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 was diabolical. I gave him a D. I really could have gave him an F. Probably should have gave him an F because, like I say, this is him and Mike Tomlin, and but unfortunately, his name is on it. But they was just out coached, out schemed, running a scheme that really didn't work. You know, any negative thing that you could come up with was probably the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And then former coach Mike Tomlin, 10-7, came in first place in the AFC North, division champs, first round playoff exit, 30-6. So basically, they did what they do. Again, I ain't gonna kick a man because he out the door, but it is what it is. And I gave Coach Tomlin a D plus, for a lot of reasons. Just losing to the Cleveland Browns when you had a chance to wrap things up. Basically, I mean, hey, a win is a win at the end of the day. A win is a win, but you won a division off a rookie missing a kick. If he makes that kick, you lose the division, and you know your firing / I'm done would have came a week earlier than what it came. You know, so it was just a typical Pittsburgh Steelers season. To be honest, they were mid. They were 10-7. Again, just barely won the division when you was up 4 games in the division, and then it comes down to the last game of the year, you choked it away. So, with that said, I gave overall coaching a D plus, and that's pretty much it. That's it. That's the book on the 2025 season. We'll start looking at once we get this coaching situation out the way, we'll start kind of moving towards the draft and see what the Steelers going to do. And actually, the more I've been thinking about it, I ain't came up with something that's not going to be very popular. But I always say stuff that's not very popular. But I believe it really be the things that the Steelers need to do. Because I kind of, like I say, I kind of take the fan out of it and be more realistic with stuff. And I'll talk about it later, but it's something that I would do in the draft that, like I say, wouldn't be popular. And to be honest, I don't really think the Steelers would do it just on the strength of the draft is here in Pittsburgh and they don't want to make no waves, but I'll explain myself about that a little later. But until then, you guys take care. Yolanda, Claude, thanks for joining me. Make sure you guys like and comment and subscribe. And until next time, I talk to you guys later. Bye bye.